Hello and welcome to the Dinosaw for week 26. The 7 curious interesting things I saw last week, and it's also week 26, which is halfway through the year, which is a fun fact. So let's crack on. The first one gets a mention mainly because it's a great pun, but also mainly because it is mind-blowing. So what somebody's done here is they've taken Grand Theft Auto 5, they've played it into an AI or a generative adversarial network, and what that does is it tries to recreate the input. So if you play a bunch of Grand Theft Auto 5, it will try and recreate Grand Theft Auto 5. Now you might be thinking, well, it's not done a particularly great job, you know, the clouds are okay, but maybe the road's a bit strange, but I really like the shine on the back of the car. That's not really what's going on here. It has literally created everything. So it didn't know what a car was, it doesn't know what physics is, it doesn't know what light is, it doesn't know what shadow is, yet it has done all of those things. So the glint you're seeing on the back of the car windscreen, it's figured that out itself. When you go into a wall and you bounce off the wall, it's figured that out itself. So it's figured out physics, lighting, perspective, parallax, all those sorts of things. So yes, it may be a little bit lo-fi at the moment, but this is mind-blowing. It can essentially simulate everything, the physics and the reality. So if you imagine this being applied to, or wear a camera for a week, and feed all that into this same algorithm, it should therefore be able to have a go at generating another reality, your reality, but in an adversarial network. So this is mind-blowing. Watch the video if you can, because it explains it a little bit better than I can, but it is mind-blowing. There you go. Next one is not really called Acne Cam. This is actually out of the University of Washington, and it's an add-on to a smartphone camera. So as you can see in the top right, it is a ring of essentially the black light LEDs, and these can actually make basically bacteria luminesce. So you can see, which is a lovely image right here, this is acne bioluminescing, and this is also applicable to tooth decay. So if you wanted to find out whether you needed to go to the dentist or not, or whether the products you're using on your skin are helping or not, or where you may be wanting to use the products on your skin, or any other sort of application of this, then this might be an add-on to a smartphone that you might be using quite soon. So it might be interesting to see if anybody uses this in the future as pure hardware in a device anyway, rather than just a 3D printed add-on. So kind of interesting where that goes, but I thought that was interesting. Great for health, but also could be quite creepy. This is a backscatter device, so I should probably explain what that is. So this allows radio waves, or 5G in this case, to be scattered around the local area. So if you point a beam of 5G radiation at this thing, it basically scatters the 5G beam so that other devices in the area can pick it up. Because the problem with 5G is it's got a huge bandwidth, but it's not very powerful in terms of getting through walls and those sorts of things. So if you have a bunch of these things scattered around within sight of the 5G, it can then bounce them around corners and around rooms for the devices that might be there. Now obviously you're not going to be able to tell every house to have a whole load of mini broadband routers, so these things are pretty basic. So that's the big breakthrough here. So these backscatter devices use no energy, they use a single transistor, which you can kind of see at the bottom, but they will allow that what they call last mile scattering of 5G to happen at a very low cost. So all of a sudden the problems with 5G and millimeter wave radiation start to go away. So that's a really big breakthrough, and well done. Facebook and Facebook VR. So Facebook are trying to own, or at least have the market jump on a lot of other headset manufacturers, or eyeset manufacturers, whatever you want to call them, with their Oculus. Now what they announced not so long ago, and what you can see here is a visual from Facebook about how they might integrate advertising or display advertising within virtual reality games, just like you would see on a website. And of course we all love those as well, don't we? They're not interruptive at all. So this is Facebook's plan. So they've tried it with an initial trial, and Blaston was the first game that we're going to trial it with, and it didn't go well at all. It went so badly that actually the makers, Resolution Games, actually pulled from the trial altogether. Many reasons for this. One is if you paid for a game that you don't want advertising in it, that's why you paid for it. Another one is like you just don't want these sorts of things in a game. This is where you should be enjoying the game and it's immersive. And the third one, there was quite a big backlash against Facebook itself, so didn't go so well. So this might be a very interesting place in the future where this might not happen. Advertising might really not work in VR, so we'll see. But it didn't go well if you're wanting an update on how that went. This is Bournemouth Council. Now this was basically a study that they did about one weekend in May. This was a May half-term holiday. Everybody descends onto the beach and in Dorset, I think it is. They then sent up a drone, and this was in basically partnership with a company who does all the drones, and they have a vision adaptation on the drone which can actually look at and identify things like bottles and paper and bits of plastic and toys and all sorts of things, and especially cigarette butts apparently. So they flew it over the beach, and therefore what they can do is create hotspots of where the litter is. So what you can see here is, I think this is West Beach, and you can see where all of the hotspots up and down the estuary are. So there you go. There's horrific numbers behind this as well. 1.5 tons of rubbish was estimated to have been left behind. That's 123,000 items, of which the biggest item, numbers-wise, was cigarette butts. I think there were also something like 32,000 pieces of paper, so that's receipts and all sorts of stuff like that. 6,500 pieces of plastic and 370 toys as well. So they reckon also that it was 1 in 5 people were the cause of this as well. So about 20% of people were the ones that were dropping this litter. So well done for the other 4/5 who took it home with them. Well done. This is the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, and Rembrandt's 1642 masterpiece, the Night Watch. Now, when it was first hung, it was going into the town hall, and it didn't quite fit in between 2 doors, so they chopped some bits off it, and it needed a little bit more off the left and a little bit less off the right and a little bit more off the bottom and not the top. So it was just a little bit weird, and they haven't recovered those pieces. They were never found, and everybody's sort of still waiting for those pieces. However, shortly after this was actually commissioned, there was a chap called Gerrit Lundens, who was commissioned by the chap in the black in the middle there with the sash, because he liked the painting so much. He said, "Hey Gerrit, could you create a copy of this?" So Gerrit created, you know, as best painting copy as he could. It was a little bit smaller, wasn't quite accurate, but what the Rijksmuseum did is they took that as a guide to what might be beyond the edges, and then they trained it on all of Rembrandt's paintings to then say, if we applied Rembrandt's style to these extra bits around the edges, could we repaint those in Rembrandt style, which is what they've done. So that's now part of an exhibition at the Rijksmuseum, which is quite interesting. So they've recreated exactly in Rembrandt style the edges of his painting. Who'd have thunk? So this is the final one for this week, and this is sending Apple AirTags in the post to see where they go and how long they stay in the various sorting offices around the world. So this is YouTuber Jonathan Lang, who's actually in Germany. So he posted 3 AirTags, one I think to Apple, one to Elon Musk, and another one to, I think, the German embassy in North Korea, certainly somewhere in North Korea, just to see where they went. And obviously, because you can now track these things, he can then just keep logging in to see where they are. And most of them stayed at Frankfurt Airport for a long time, even though the courier, and I won't say who the courier was, but watch the video, you'll find out, was sending updates to say, don't worry, it's in transit, it's reached the destination, etc., etc., and it wasn't. It was still stuck in Frankfurt Airport. So a lot of those updates you get from your courier that says, we have received it, it's now gone to the sorting depot, clearly aren't that true. So stay tuned. I think he's got another update of the ones that were going to North Korea, because they just stayed in the depot for ages and ages. But that's very interesting how we can now use consumer devices to basically just track entire industries from end to end. So there you go. So hope that was useful, hope that was enjoyable, and I will see you next week.